Hello chess fans, and we have just completed round 6 of the Australian Chess Championships, day 4, the second and last double day where we have 2 rounds and the strongest survives. We had some great struggles both in the 5th and 6th round, but by the end of it, Rishi Sardana is on 5.5 out of 6. We'll get to his 6th round game, a fantastic struggle first, but let's have a look at a couple of round 5 games. First of all, the battle between 2 international masters, Trevor Tao and Stephen Solomon, both veterans of Olympiads, and here the game looked like it was just drifting to a draw, but Solomon decided to spice things up with rook c4. It's incredibly ambitious. The threat is rook takes bishop and bishop f4, and even that, it's not clear if it's winning, but Trevor Tao could not be bluffed. He took, pawn takes, and now it could be that white should play rook g1. That's a computer suggestion. It's not very human. Queen e5 looks a lot better, but after queen g6, g4, and Trevor probably thought he was winning here. If pawn takes pawn, then f5, and you can't hang on to both your knight and stop the mate on g7. However, c3 played after great thought by Solomon, the best chance. Takes, 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 and we get this funny sort of endgame where the 2 pieces need to keep control of those centre pawns, otherwise black is in all sorts of bother. Black started with a5. That way, if b5 is played, then black can probably go bishop d2 and even give up a piece in some lines. So takes, takes, king g2, and he goes chasing these pawns, and he's actually 1-1. So Tao tries to slow the pawns down because he's got the faster ones, but king e3 was probably a tempo lost, and now knight here, e6, knight a5. A brilliant plan. If rook takes knight, then bishop takes back. You have to go e7, and now knight check to drag the king across. Bishop takes pawn, king takes knight, bishop d6. That's why the white king has been dragged across. There is one and only one winning move here for Trevor Tao, and that is f6. And after pawn takes pawn, f5. You don't win the a3 pawn immediately, but your king gets a path in. Instead, he played king d5 and took this pawn, and after bishop to g5, there is no way through for white. He tried rook here because bishop f6 would allow rook takes bishop, but bishop h4, and now bishop e1. You don't have time for f6, so bishop c3 will follow, and this is just a draw, and Trevor Tao offered a draw here. The bishop does not go back to f6, it just stays on long diagonal, and white can make no progress. So that was a really tough draw between those 2 players. There were all sorts of other moments in the game, but rook c4 was just a great idea. It's just a pity it didn't win. So then also in round 5, a very nice game by another of the veterans. This is Bill Jordan, former Victorian now from South Australia, up against one of South Australia's most successful players the last few years, Kyle Lever. Here, after rook d6, the threat of doubling on the d file is very, very annoying, and white should probably have just gone rook dd1, which looks weird, but the idea is you can go bishop e2 later. Instead, white brought the queen back, which looks good, but now a great forcing sequence. Queen g5, king across, and now bishop takes pawn. If king takes, we have knight f4 check and rook h6 mate. So you have to go something like knight f5, and it's still going to be, it's not check, but it's still going to be mate with rook h6. Or of course, you might lose a piece on d3. So that was game over, and Jordan moved up the table. This round, in round 5, Rishi Sardana was held to his first draw by fellow Canberran Fred Litchfield, but the next game was a really, really tough game. We're going to pick it up a little bit late. Wrong game. And again. So we've actually got a bishop ending, and it's a quite crazy sort of bishop ending where white is actually threatening to go f5 and h5 and bishop takes h6 and this sort of thing. Now, Yi decided his a-pawn was his main asset, and he decided not to waste any time with preparing anything king c7. I would have probably gone h5 here, though I think he was scared of a very quick G4 and then H5 and then F5, but it should be okay for black, who can bring the king across to the other side. Instead, now that black king is tied to that side of the board, and now F5. Here, again, really tricky position. The computer says F6 is a draw. It's hardly a move a human was going to play. You just sit tight after F6. Instead, king B6, and we're in a great race. F6 takes, bishop takes, king takes, H5, A5, and now bishop C1. A great move, and it induced a blunder by Yi. Here, if he plays pawn takes pawn on E5, he can create a passed D pawn in many lines. If H6, he can put his bishop on F6 and then back to H8. White doesn't seem to be able to do anything here. Instead, he thought that this would work. Pawn takes pawn was a great move. Takes, A3. It's a lovely idea by Yi, and now he will get a perpetual check or perpetual attack on that bishop when it's on A1. The problem is, white can, repeating moves, king here, white can play G6, and after takes, king moves, queen with check, king G2, black has no checks, and white is easily winning this endgame. First of all, you have to centralise your queen. With queen F4, there is no check here. If queen E2, queen F2, and black has no way to even to get back in time to stop that F4 pawn from queening. So Yi Liu had to resign, and suddenly Sardana has a 4-point lead now over a surprising Sam Asaka. Asaka took down he took down Fred Litchfield, overtook him. So that leaves Asaka on 4.5, Litchfield, Lane, Liu all on 4, and the outlier Rianova also on 4, and then a big pack on 3.5. The big surprise on 4 is Gary Lane. If you recall, Gary Lane was sitting on 1 out of 3. He's now won 3 games in a row, and the last win was against Stephen Solomon. So he's really come back, and he is probably the player who may be able to stop Sardana. But for the moment, it's Asaka against Sardana in the next round. That will be played after a rest day, so on the afternoon of Sunday. So if you can come down to the Glenunga International School, you can watch the commentary there. Otherwise, you'll have to wait for the video. So hope to see as many of you down here as possible, and all the best till Sunday.